people say Market Square now is exactly what it should be like. But news today that 4 restaurants are closing has a lot of people wondering why. Well, some of them are blaming new regulations regarding grease. Our Heather Burrian is joining us live from Market Square with a look at the problem. Heather, tell us about this.
Shonos City has been in the Knoxville area for a decade. It's a staple in Market Square, but it's one of the restaurants that's closing its doors for good, and it's because KUB is requiring them to get a grease interceptor, and it would out the restaurant tens of thousands of dollars. Willy Rosenberg is closing the doors to Shonos City after more than a decade of business. And grease is partially to blame.
In the last 4 or 5 months, we've reached some bad times, and financially, it's not feasible for me to keep the operation open and add another $20,000.
That $20 grand is the estimated cost of a grease interceptor. KUB is now requiring all Knoxville restaurants to have one, keeping grease from building up in sewers and wastewater. Otherwise, KUB tells me it can face fines from the EPA.
When we first got the notice from KUB, I asked them, I said, are you willing to finance the project? They said no, you had to find your own financing. Then I said, and what happens if I can't do what you want me to do in 2015? Basically, they said, well, we can turn your electricity off.
Other restaurants say they've been told the same thing. Adding one of these grease traps is not cheap. It can range from $10,000 to $30,000, depending on the size of the restaurants.
Slowly trying to get all the businesses up to speed as far as grease traps in particular. And so for the last couple of years, they've been trying to work with businesses to try to get them in compliance.
The city says the grease issue can't be ignored.
We've been talking about it for 2 years now, and KUB has been slowly working with each of the businesses to get a plan of action.
Rosenberg couldn't meet the deadline KUB gave him, and now he's realizing the impact.
And I don't have the funds to complete the project, then basically they're shutting my doors of a business that I ran for 10 years, and I have my livelihood and everything invested in it.
And KUB tells me they inspected these restaurants on an as-needed basis. That was until 2013 when they discovered some grease buildup in some Market Square restaurants. After that, they inspected those restaurants downtown and in the Bearden area, and eventually all restaurants in the Knoxville service area will require a grease interceptor. Now, some of these merchants are renting their space, and they are asking their landlords to chip in on the costs. Reporting live in Market Square, Heather Burrian, VLT, Local 8 News.
Right. Heather, thanks a lot. Some of the other Market Square restaurants closing: Orange Leaf, Steamboat Sandwiches, but they're moving close to their original location on North Central, and Latitude 35 also closing. The owner tells us the grease trap is part of the blame, but there are other factors as well.